All right, you guys, I'm going to get into um, this next hour, 30 minutes, hour, whatever we get. I feel so privileged to have the honor of having this gentleman show up on our Zoom and to really learn from him. I have probably self-deemed I am a researcher. I am a researcher and have been for 30 years. Like, I've been in fitness and nutrition for over 30 years, and I don't think there's a better researcher than the researcher of the researchers. And so when I first heard of Mr. Peter Greenlaw and all the work that he had done, science makes me drool. So I'm always in awe, and I'm always loving that we get to learn from the best of the best. Peter Greenlaw is called the researcher of researchers. I'm just going to read a little bit about him. He's worked with world-renowned experts on aging and nutrition, Dr. John Gray, Dr. Marco Ruggiero.
Ruggiero. Okay, Ruggiero.
Thank you. Thank you. Sometimes my math doesn't work.
I got it.
Dr. Bill Andrews. And if you guys have been around a long time, you know these names. Dr. Michael Colgan was like very first, I feel, in nutrition, heading back to days when I was studying all about nutrition. And then John Anderson, our own dear John Anderson. So I started calling you Dr. Dr. Peter Greenlaw.
Oh.
Well, but I have to be compliant, right? Spurred by your own experiences, what I'm reading, you devoted over 10 years to the study of environmental toxins and the effects on disease, obesity, and health. And you're a pioneer in the making of the world aware of these toxins. TDOS syndrome, the toxicity deficiency of nutrition, being overweight and stress, and the role that plays, causing us to have less energy, less sleep, more stress, and a major reason that we're gaining weight. I know that you have published several books. You've done several lectures, including the Autism One conference. And this, I just wish people could understand the correlation between nutrition and what we have, and how nutrient dense we are not, that if we were, how much better our bodies would run. And this has been your mission, just to really help people understand this. You authored Why Diets Are Failing Us, the TDOS Syndrome, TDOS Solutions, and Your Third Brain. And you've appeared on numerous radio and television shows, Fox 5, Washington, D.C. Morning Show, LA-based, On the Green Carpet. Oh, yeah. Other prominent news shows, including Bay City Sunday in San Francisco and Fox LA. You continue to just keep going and going and going. And, I want to throw it to you right now. However, I know that the only reason that we have you here right now is because one of the executives on this team has just been following you and has absorbed just everything that he can and brings it back to our team, everything that he's learning from you. And I just want to throw it over to our very own Michael Jewell so he can just give that nice little kiss and hug that this interaction deserves. So Michael Jewell, take it away.
All right, well, I'll keep it brief. So let's get to why we're here, and that's to hear from Peter. But yes, I have been following Peter for a while, guys. And my dad is on this phone call tonight. And Peter Greenlaw, and matter of fact, Gina Van Dorn is on this call. My dad went through some health issues, some stuff, and they both lent their knowledge, their insight. And my dad was able to come through on stage 4 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. He's thriving today, as you can see. He's on this call here. And of course, we can't say it's going to treat, cure, prevent disease. I've got to say that.
Yes.
But guys, this is so beyond. I'm going to tee it up like this. Without results, we don't have a company, period. And Peter is only interested in the results. I like the hoopla and the fun of the company and all that stuff. Peter is not so much interested in all that stuff. He's interested in helping people in the results. And that's why he's here. He's not financially tied to us. He's blessing us with his knowledge. So tune in, guys, and hear what Peter has to say. And Peter, by the way, guys, I've got this book right here. This is Peter's book, guys. Jump on Amazon. Get this. This is the crux of, if you're going to understand Isagenix, you need this book. All right, take it away, Peter.
Well, thank you both very much for that wonderful introduction. I'm really happy to be here, and let me fill in just a little more of the blanks, okay? So I literally have devoted more than 2 decades to research, and like Debbie was nice in pointing out, I have literally worked with some of the top medical doctors, oncologists, molecular biologists, geneticists, and nutraceutical chemists and researchers. Nothing to do with the company that you guys all represent and myself, okay? So it's really true. I want to clarify one thing. I tell everybody I'm not the expert, but I became an expert on the experts. That's why they call me the researcher of the researchers. So everything that I'm going to share with you tonight, there's no hoopla, there's no nonsense. It's only based on hard scientific facts. And in case you don't know this, and I'm going to hopefully open your eyes to the unbelievable opportunity you have that's right in front of you, but it's hard to see it. You see, science has no emotions. It doesn't have an agenda. It just is. So for example, you can see this pen. Every time it's going to fall on my computer, that's called gravity, okay? Well, let me start out by saying this. This company is the only company in the world with their own peer-reviewed human trial studies. Now, let me tell you why that's so important, okay? Everything else that you're seeing, and I'm becoming a pretty big influence on TikTok, and lots of people are following me now, right? So I have to monitor that stuff. It really makes me mad, but I have to kind of hold my powder so they don't blow me up. But every person on there that's coming on, and some of them got 10 million followers, they don't have one shred of medical evidence. It's all total, what happened, and utter nonsense. I don't know what's going on your screen. Okay, there you go. Sorry. So they have no, okay. So for those of you that don't know, okay, this is how it works in medical research, and that's what I'm involved in, right? When you do your experiment or your study, you submit it to something like, say, the New England Journal of Medicine. In our case, it was the Nutrition Journal and the Obesity Journal being the #1 journal in the world. It's very important you understand that the journal that you get submitted to, there's a ranking in the whole world, and that lends credibility. So here's the thing. You don't just submit your study to one of these big publications and they publish it. No. First thing they do, they look at it and see if it's worthy of peer review. Then what they do, they send it out to other world-class experts. That's what the term peer review means, okay? What's the job of those experts? To discredit everything you're trying to prove. That's why you won't see Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers, Nutrisystem, Paleo, Keto, Mediterranean, none of them that would do their own peer-reviewed human trial. I want to give you some context first, okay? So I always rely just on studies, and I have them right here. So first, let's take a look at the New England Journal of Medicine, okay? #1 journal in the world, right? So they did a 12-month study. You've all heard the big rage and all these people on TikTok. Pardon my French, I get so pissed off because it's total nonsense. It's hot air. They don't have nothing, okay? Now, when we look at the studies, one of the big things that's been going on is time-restricted eating, or called intermittent fasting, okay? If I'm going to teach you anything tonight, what you have is not intermittent fasting. I own the trademark. It's registered trademark. What you're doing is intermittent nutritional fasting. You want to run from intermittent fasting as fast as you can. I know they talk about it, but really, it was never a cleanse, by the way. It was never a cleanse. It's intermittent nutritional fasting. Now, the reason you'd want to do that is, let's look at the New England Journal of Medicine study, 12 months on intermittent fasting. They compared, one group did time-restricted eating, meaning they didn't eat for 16 hours and they eat for 8, one of the worst things you could ever do, of course. And the other group was just lowering calories. In 12 months, on time-restricted eating, people lost, on average, 14 pounds in a year. Just lowering calories, they lowered 17. So there's line #1, okay? Now let's go to line #2. This is a study done in the Journal of the American Medical Association that they named every diet we could name. They named from Atkins to Paleo to the Zone diet to the blood type diet to the Cornish diet to Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers, Nutrisystem, etc. They named them all. Now, in this study, it was a study of studies. That's called a meta-analysis, a fancy name in medicine, but all it means is they took multiple studies. In this case, I'll read from it. 48 unique randomized trials, including 7,286 individuals, okay? And named all the diets. 12 months, again, Here was the thing that was interesting. Of all the diets they analyzed, after 12 months, there was 2 to 3 ounces difference in the weight that people lost. Let me repeat that. After 12 months, there was 2 to 3 ounces difference in the weight they lost. And the weight loss on average in 12 months was only 16 pounds in a year. Now, one thing I didn't tell you, I skipped over this. It's very important. I didn't mean to. In the New England Journal of Medicine study, remember, this is their study. So I'm not making anything up. This is some not hyperbole that you guys would be talking about. So buried deep back in the study, when you're researching, this is what you have to do is read everything, right? Let me read from the result that they're trying to tell you this is okay. Both the time-restricted eating and the daily caloric restriction diets led to the loss of lean muscle. Worst thing that could ever have happened. Okay, worst thing. Every diet studied, everyone. The only thing you're losing is lean muscle. Let me explain to you why diets don't work. I actually, as shameless plug for me, that was my first book, which I wrote in 2010, which is a massive bestseller, where I told people counting calories was the stupidest thing anybody could ever do. Do you know your body doesn't know what a calorie is? Do you know your body can't count calories? Why are we counting them? Because Oprah, someone told us to. But here's what they're missing. So imagine, have you ever heard anyone tell you this? That when you lower the calories, what else are you lowering? Nutrition. Guess what the body does? It freaks out. It immediately shuts down fat burning, and then it goes and looks for nutrition. Where does it find it? In our organs, in our brain, our kidney, our liver, our heart. That's what fuels us. But it starts in our muscles. It liquefies your muscles, turns them into carbohydrates for energy. Now, if that's not bad enough, it does 2 other horrible things. One, the body has no choice. It slows down your metabolism. And let me tell you, you can lose weight on any diet out there. You can lose weight on the Coca-Cola diet. I'm not making this up. You can lose weight on the Dunkin' Donut diet, okay? Because they're all based on one principle, lowering calories. No one. That's why I get so crazy when I see these people on TikTok talking about this. And they talk about energy deficiency. That's a code word for low calories. The shot, what's the shot? It's a low-calorie diet. That's it. We'll get into that in just a moment. You can tell I'm on a roll now, right? So the point is, that on every diet, when you lower the calorie, you lower the nutrition, the body freaks out. Not only does it slow down your metabolism, so you can't burn as many calories, that's why gradually you hit a plateau. And then what do people do? They cut calories even more. It's even worse, okay? Or they come off the diet, they gain all their weight back rapidly. Do you know on the shot, I'm working with people now that are coming off the shot, they're gaining between 1/2 and 1 pound a day? A day? Hello? How's that working? Pretty good, right? Let's get that shot going. And I'm not against the shot in case the FDA is listening. Do the shot, whatever helps people. But what's the reality? Now, again, let me refer back again, not Peter Greenland's opinion. I never give you my opinion. My opinion doesn't mean a thing. Back to the New England Journal of Medicine. They did a 68-week study. 68 weeks, a year and 4 months, right? On they're called GLP-1s, but you've heard the name Ozempic, semaglutide, et cetera. There's about 5 or 6 of them out there now, okay? So what did they find after 68 weeks? The most anybody lost was 32 pounds. And they showed, this is the New England Journal of Medicine, right? Showing that 50% of the weight loss was lean muscle. But here's the thing that's horrifying. People's resting heart rates went up. Do you know how bad that is? Okay, this is medical. These are medical facts. This isn't sales gimmicks, okay? That's why diets can't possibly, I don't care what the name is. When I hear the word diet, I immediately think about deprivation. When I hear the word diet, what do I think about? Lowering calories. Would everyone agree with that? Would everyone agree that every diet you know about is some form of lowering calories? Yes? Right? So the point is, okay, so what do we have going for us? Well, it's up to you. You can do whatever you want. We have the only peer-reviewed human trial that's ever been done on a weight loss protocol. It's not really a diet. As a matter of fact, I'm going to teach you tonight that the main reason to do this is not to lose weight. So let's again go to some more statistics, okay? So I have over here, this is a new study that just came out this week in The Lancet. Arguably, probably, if not the New England Journal of Medicine, this is the #1 journal in the world. Let me read from the study. A study published in The Lancet suggests that obesity, listen to me carefully, is now a greater threat to global health than hunger. What? Finding that more than 1 in 8 people, more than 1 billion people of an 8 billion world population are clinically obese. As the number of obese passed 1 billion for the first time, making obesity the leading form of malnutrition worldwide. Does that stun you? I hope it stunned me, and I'm a researcher. This is crazy. This just came out like last week. Now let's keep going. All of these schemes, whether it's, I mean, I've got study after study after study. I mean, it's so crazy. Okay, here's another one. All right. This one was based on the Mediterranean diet, which you all know is the #1 diet, U.S. News and World Report for the last 7 years. Let's talk about their wonderful results. 8 months, 10 pounds. It's all like a joke. Do you realize if you added it up, they're losing like 4 to 6 ounces a week? I mean, I got people losing 1 or 2 pounds a day. It's not even in the same zip code. So look, you don't have to disparage anybody. You just have to look at the reality of where we are. 80% of Americans are overweight and 50% of those people are obese. And yet that's not the main reason to do this. So let me introduce you to some new terms that you've never maybe heard before. One of them is called being metabolically inflexible. What the heck does that mean? Some big fancy word? No. All it means is that they estimate 95% of the US population is metabolically inflexible. What does that mean? It means that we're relying primarily on sugar and simple carbs for energy. As a matter of fact, we store about 2,000 calories a day in sugar and carbs in the body. Anybody want to come on and give me a guess as to how many calories we store in fat in our body on a daily basis? Anybody? Okay, ready, everyone? We store 100,000 calories in our fat. What the hell do you think we're supposed to burn? Do you understand why burning lean muscle is so detrimental? 100,000, 50 times more. How many of you knew that? See, it's not about, I don't want to turn you into a science nerd like me. I'm proud to be a nerd, okay? That's my life. That's what I do. But I'm just showing you some of the things that are so obvious. If you knew them, you wouldn't have to convince anybody of anything. I always tell people this. I said, my job, when I talk to people, you know, because obviously I get lots of people that interact with me now. I tell them, look, one thing 100% for sure, I'm not here to convince you or sell you anything. I'm here to make you aware. That's been my whole premise in 20 years. Now, in fairness, to give you guys all an idea, despite running 4 best-selling books, I've actually done 1,500 lectures all over the world. I've been to China. I've done 20 shows on PBS, plus those other television shows, etc. Until a year ago, none of that mattered in the medical world. Not one medical doctor would take this seriously. I'll give you a story. I have a very dear friend. She's been a friend of mine for a long time. She's one of the top oncologists in the United States. She lives in San Francisco, runs a giant hospital. Would never look at this. She read all my books. We were friends. She said, Peter, no. So 10 months ago, when the peer-reviewed human trial studies came out that you all have access to now, I sent them to her. She called me the next day. And she's Chinese. Actually, she's brilliant. She's brilliant. She was a medical doctor in China. She was a Chinese medicine doctor, and she was an acupuncturist. When she came to this country from Beijing, she had to go back to medical school and go back through residency, okay? She's one of the top oncologists probably in the whole darn country, right? So she calls me up and she says, okay, Peter, she said, you're very lucky. I said, why? She said, my husband, basically she said this, she said, my husband's fat. But he's borderline high blood pressure, borderline diabetic. Now, her husband is an acupuncturist, okay? So anyway, they agreed to go on it, okay? So this is a true story. So they started, and I'll never forget, it was a Sunday, it was their 5th morning. So they did 2 days of shakes and 2 days of intermittent nutritional fasting. Not a cleanse, not intermittent fasting. Well, let's get that out of the way. It's intermittent nutritional fasting. She calls me up on the 5th morning. She says, Peter, she said, we're at the hospital. I'm going, what? Oh my God. She says, no. And then don't do a real good Chinese accent, but just bear with me, okay? She goes, yeah, they scale at home, broken. We come to the hospital. You see, because in 4 days, he lost 10.5 pounds. In 20 days, he lost 21 pounds. And he went from an extra large shirt to a medium in 21 days. Do you have any idea the power you have in your hands? When I just told you that people are losing in 12 months, 16 pounds, 17 pounds. And we got people losing 10, 12, 15 pounds in 4 days. I mean, are you starting to get the picture? But the difference is it's safe weight loss. So let's come back to another thing I haven't quite touched on yet. So the CDC, again, not me, their numbers, not mine. Listen to this. 92.3% of the American population is metabolically unhealthy. Let me repeat that. 92.3% of the American population is unhealthy. Okay. What does that mean? It means if you have 3 of these 5 conditions, you're metabolic unhealthy. What are the conditions? If you're overweight, high blood pressure, high blood sugar, high cholesterol, high triglycerides. Okay. Do you know in the medical studies that you have available to you that for the first time in history, all 5 of those factors came down in 30 days? This has never been seen in the history of medicine. You get that, everyone? Can you even begin to process that? Now, let me tell you about metabolic syndrome. The U.S. health budget right now for healthcare is 4.5 trillion with a T, not B, T. Metabolic syndrome is 1.2 trillion of the 4.5 trillion. Do you think you have an opportunity? Weight loss is about 100 billion, just to give you an idea. And it's true that we focused on weight loss. You know why? Because we didn't have any medical evidence. That's all we could really talk about. And that's the other thing you need to understand. When you're sharing this, if you want to, you don't have to even listen to me. After tonight, you probably say, that Greenlaw guy, never have him on again. That's okay. I don't care. I've had critics, and I always say other people's opinion to me is none of my business because I rely on science. I don't rely on my opinions. I don't rely on hearsay. I don't rely on gimmicks like they have on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and all these people coming on there. Some of them have 10 million followers. There's one chiropractor on this got 18 million people. He doesn't know a damn thing. He wouldn't know if it's Monday or Tuesday, okay? Coming on telling these people about weight loss and trumpeting like keto and whatever. Really? Where's your evidence? Because the evidence on every one of these diets is, yes, you'll lose weight and it's lean muscle mass. Do you understand, all of you, right away now why that's so dangerous? Do you know that the latest studies say that diets actually are leading to disease? Because the other part of losing lean muscle mass, guess what it also does? Slows down your immune system. Hello? Yeah. Do I have all your attention yet or not? Or is everybody ready to go to sleep here? Let's get it going, okay? Now, so imagine you guys talk about business opportunity. I talk about results. All I'm saying to you is imagine you have the only non-medical, safe, proven attack on all 5 of the factors in metabolic syndrome. That's why I tell people, listen, it's not about weight loss. It's one of 5 factors. I mean, can all of you grasp that? Do you understand what we're talking about here? But let's go deeper. So it would be one thing just to brush over and go, okay, well, they lowered blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol, triglycerides, and inflammation, which they did, proven in the study. Did you all know, for example, that hunger went down 41% in 30 days? How many of you knew that? But let's go even deeper, okay? It wasn't, here's something that I learned from experts that I work with, right? Do you know if you are a type 2 diabetic? I told you that before. 50% of America is pre-diabetic. 50%. I'll tell you another thing that's crazy. 50% of America now has non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. What? Do you know that in 1975, there wasn't one case of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease in the United States? You know what causes fatty liver? Triglycerides. What happened in the study to triglycerides? They came down 25% in 30 days. But let's go to blood sugar because that's really becoming a crisis now. As a matter of fact, some of you may have read that we got insulin shortages. What the hell is going to happen when 50% of Americans traverse from pre-diabetic to diabetic? It's not going to be pretty. So the way a drug works for diabetes is the drug itself is designed to lower the sugar. But in order to do that, insulin goes up. And when insulin goes up in your body, the very first thing it does is stores fat. The opposite of what we want to have happening, right? When the study, blood sugar came down 10 points in 30 days, not 10%. But here was the thing that stunned the researchers. Insulin came down 41% in 30 days. That's never been seen ever. Do you understand what you have a grip on here? And here's the cool thing. If you have to sell this, you don't get it. If you make people aware, it's a whole different ballgame. I'll tell you what, it blows my mind. The opportunity is so staggering. But the key, if you want to unlock that opportunity, it's all going to be based on results. And you don't have to, look, here's the point. You don't have to be a scientist. You don't have to be some crazy researcher like me. But at least know some of the high points of those studies. Why wouldn't you? I mean, you understand that the advantage you have over everybody? Do you get that? I mean, Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers, Nutrisystem, do you know there isn't another, what it's called, MLM, or I don't know what it's even called. None of those companies have one shred of medical evidence. It's all nonsense. It's all made up. It's all like, oh, we got this great stuff. Really? Here's the thing, ask the question. If their products were so great, they'd want to have peer-reviewed human trials. Why? Because it's irrefutable evidence. You can use that term if you want. Irrefutable evidence. Do you realize, in essence, basically what these studies have done? They've made all diets obsolete. Do you get that? And it's not a weight loss program. That's like one of, the 5 factors. I mean, it's so crazy. And it's true. Another thing, my second book is called The TDOS Syndrome, which I discovered. It's a registered trademark, U.S. Patent Office. It's a medical condition, recognized, right? Stands for toxicity driven by nutritional deficiency, causing us to be overweight and stressed. And then obviously the solution was TDOS Solutions. And then my 4th book, shameless plug for me, this is my most famous book, Your Third Brain. I wrote it with this gentleman here who is the #1 oncologist in the world. And, oh, you got it. Michael's got it. Okay, beautiful. #1 oncologist in the world. But listen to this. Not only is he an oncologist, he's a molecular biologist. And this is going to lead me to what I'm going to share with you next. It's going to blow all your minds. So, in my past life, I was a ski racer, live in Colorado. That's why I got the mountains in the background. I'm not really in the mountains, but it looks like I am. Okay. So anyway, I tried out for the Olympics. At one point, I was a world-class skier, right? So we went to training table, could have all the steak and chicken and liver. And they're still promoting that on the, like all these people on TikTok saying, have 120 grams of protein a day. One huge problem. Protein is like a walnut shell. But we can't live without it, because protein contains the 20 amino acids that we need to be alive. To give you an idea, all of us on this call will remake the lining of our stomach twice this month. We'll make 2 new livers this year, and we'll turn over every cell in our body once every 7 years. That doesn't happen with fats, it doesn't happen with carbohydrates, and it doesn't happen with protein itself. So the protein is the shell. Well, obviously with walnut, you want the walnut, you don't want to eat the shell. But the most important thing about amino acids, you understand, whether you get amino acids from a plant or you get it from an animal source, they contain these 20 amino acids. And maybe you've heard the term. If not, it's a fancy medical term called branch chain amino acids. What does it mean? It means those 20 amino acids are laid in these long chains, okay? Hundreds of pairs, right? So as we ingest a protein, the body breaks open the shell, extracts those out. So again, to a layperson, that sounds great. I'm getting all 20 amino acids. That doesn't mean a damn thing. The only thing that matters to your body is what percentage from 0 to 100 is your body absorbing at your gene level. So we have 22,000 genes in our body. So anyone want to take a wild guess? I'm quizzing all of you. How many proteins, human proteins, do you think we make? Zero. He's got 0. Okay. You ready, everyone? We make 22,000 human proteins every day. Now, here's the other thing. You don't store protein and you don't store amino acids. So whatever you don't have today, it's gone. You can't make up for it, okay? There's a disease that we all have starting at age 25 called sarcopenia. I don't know if any of you have heard of it, but essentially what it is, it's the loss of 1% of your lean muscle mass every year starting at age 25. And if you look at someone in a nursing home, go in there if they're 80 years old, you'll notice the skin's hanging up their bones and they're very unstable. And of course, being unstable, if you fall down and break your hip as an elderly person, it could be a death sentence, right? So it's really, really important that you understand the significance of what I'm going to share with you next, okay? Remember, I don't give you my opinion. My opinion doesn't mean a damn thing. Be clear, okay? I'm not the expert. Now, oh, do I have a new study here from the Obesity Journal? You all can read obesity. What's the title of the study? Abdominal fat deposits are related to lower cognitive function and brain volumes in middle-aged males at high risk of Alzheimer's. What? That visceral fat, folks. Visceral fat literally releases chemicals into the bloodstream that go to our brain and impact our neurological functions. Lean muscle mass, on the other hand, emits chemicals into the bloodstream and goes to our brain and increases cognition. Now, do you understand why it's so important that on these, we're not losing lean muscle mass, we're making lean muscle mass? Did you all know that in 8 weeks with no exercise in the studies, they reduced their visceral fat, that's the dangerous fat amount, by 33% with no exercise? Did all of you know in those studies, no one was allowed to exercise? And it wasn't because they were against exercise, but they didn't want that to be an outlier. They didn't want that to be a factor. This is unbelievable. I'm telling you, it's unbelievable. But it doesn't do us any good sitting on a shelf collecting dust. Look, I own a bunch of trademarks. One of them, and you're welcome to use it. My movement, which I've started obviously with the people that have been around me, is called The New Health Conversation. Don't we need one based on what I'm sharing with you tonight? Or do we just do the same old stuff that we've been doing forever? You know, calories in, calories out, deficit, diet and exercise. That's the worst thing you could ever do, by the way. Watch what happens, diet and exercise. We're now coming in and asking our body to put out more energy with less fuel. How's it going to turn out? You're going to burn lean muscle. Exercise with the proper nutrition is a totally different thing. Many of you have been told it's really unhealthy to lose more than a pound a week on a diet. On a diet, remember I use the word diet, not on this. Now the newest research says this: the faster you can lose weight, if you do it in the right way, the healthier you become. Do all of you understand this is not a weight loss program or protocol? You know what it is? Quality of life system. You can use that if you want. That's one of my terms. Quality of life system. Now, what's so interesting to me, I've got another study here. This one is a study of 110 different diets. I can't make this up, right? So I'll just read. I mean, I can't make this stuff up. It's crazy. The title of this one, you can see it in yellow because I was looking at it, just so ridiculous. This diet is called the False Mayo Clinic Diet. That's the title. I'm not making it up. During the 1960s, a diet commonly referred to as a Mayo diet, Mayo egg diet, or Mayo reducing diet gained popularity. However, it is essential to note that despite its name, the diet had no affiliation of the renowned Rochester Clinic and was falsely attributed to it. I got 110 diets in here. 110. Every one of them is a failure. Every one of them is a joke. Every one of them, you lose lean muscle. You have the only weight loss program in the world where you can lose weight 12, 15, 20 times faster than any diet, and yet you gain lean muscle, and you reduce visceral fat by 33% in 8 weeks? What planet are we on? Look, it's almost like this is the twilight. Is this possible? Is this real? And again, let me go back. For 19 years, like all of you, I had belief. I had wonderful things going on even for myself. I had great results, but no proof. And like I said, you guys, you can do whatever you want. You don't work for me. I'm not part of this. I'm just a scientist. I'm just a researcher. My goal is to bring to the world through the New Health Conversation what you would never see in mainstream media. Maybe I'm actually starting to see more and more because I was one of the pioneers screaming the alarm about toxic chemicals a long time ago. That's when I got, the TDOS syndrome, which is a registered trademark, U.S. Patent Office. Because the other thing, why do you think the visceral fat went down? Does anyone know? I'm going to tell you. Because what the body does when we ingest the chemicals in water, air, and food, the body takes those chemicals, first presents to the liver, okay? One of the big factors why we have fatty liver disease, because the liver doesn't know what to do with it. It can't process herbicides and pesticides, so it accumulates fat. We shouldn't have any fat in our liver at all. That's what fatty liver disease means, right? So then once the liver is filled up, in comes the chemical again, and the immune system rushes over. Well, it gets within about 50 yards and says, the hell with this, I'm out of here. Okay, now what does the body do? The body literally has to take those chemicals, those toxins, and stuff them in our visceral fat. What did they prove in the studies? That this was removing the chemicals from our visceral fat. And to be medically correct, the fat is not gone, but it shrinks away. This is why you don't have any loose skin, because as the fat. So first of all, people told me before, well, obviously a pound of muscle weighs more than a pound of fat. What physics course did you go to, right? I mean, no, they have to weigh the same. There's no way they can weigh, no. Now, so, but fat takes up 10 times the volume in the body as muscle, right? So think of it. What happens with this, when we first ingest a herbicide, a pesticide, Scotchgard, Teflon, whatever it is, think of like a balloon. So the chemical comes in and blows up the balloon. That's why you see people, they're not just overweight, but the amount of fat they have in their body is insane. It's crazy. Okay. What did they prove in the study? Why did the visceral fat go down? Because this was removing chemicals from the body. Now, what they anticipated seeing, because of this big detox component that they knew was going to, this is what shocked the researchers. So normally when that happens, you have a tremendous increase of what are called free radicals. If you don't know what free radicals are, they attack the engines of our cells called the mitochondria, okay? They're little engines inside all of our cells. Well, in the studies, they saw a massive decrease in free radicals and a massive increase in antioxidants. The people weren't taking antioxidants. It was the body doing it. See, all you're really doing is empowering your own body to do what it's capable of, but you're not going to do it with regular food. Let me give you 3 examples. So the D in TDOS is one of the most important things for deficiency. What am I talking about? Well, all of you be familiar with one of the biggest things we're deficient in, of course, are minerals. And then the best organic in the research that I've done, you're going to get 15. In the shakes and the other things you're taking, you have all 70 minerals. That was one of the things that my great mentor from years ago, he taught me all about this. As a matter of fact, he actually took me to the mine in Nevada that he discovered that had the 70 minerals, and he literally made me eat the dirt. I'm not making it up. I did. I mean, if he would have told me to jump out of a building with no parachute, I would have done it, because he was the greatest genius, nutritional. I mean, he told me once, he said, you know, Peter, they're going to look back 100 years from now and realize that and he wasn't bragging, what I've developed. He was the one that turned me on to the fact that our food was becoming pretty much nutritionally bankrupt. And that's why he was called the Indiana Jones of nutrition, in case any of you didn't know that. A lot of you probably didn't have the privilege of getting to know him. And I was, as a matter of fact, one of my claims to fame is one of my dear friends. He taught me how to drink tequila, and that was pretty amazing. And I trust you, I wasn't able to complete a sentence after that night, but that's another story. We went on vacations together, and he basically mentored me, okay? Because he knew that he had told me once, a long time ago, that he said, look, I know I've invented something that's going to change the world, and I need someone like you to tell the world about it. And I said, well, that's great. This was more than 20 years ago before I started, really, or I had started. And I said, well, that's great, except I was a finance major in college. I said, hell, I don't even know what a calorie is. He said, I'll teach you. And that's what started. And then it spread out from there when I met all these other medical doctors, because everyone was interested in the toxins that they were then making known. I don't know if many of you would know this, but it wasn't until late 2005, early 2006, that the first study ever done on a human being was done by Mount Sinai Medical School in New York. And what they ran the blood and the urine and stool analysis, they were shocked. Think of it, it was never looked at before. So I was on glyphosate and Roundup years ago, thinking, wait a minute, this cannot be good, you know? Because remember, we eat whatever they eat. Do you get that concept? That's why, for example, having meat with hormones or antibiotics, that's why we have antibiotic resistance today. Because they're feeding cows corn. A cow's digestive tract is meant to eat grass. So what's literally happening, if they didn't give those cows antibiotics, they would explode. Literally, their stomachs would explode. I'm not making this up. So we've got tremendous amounts of calories with almost no nutrition. Now, let me give you 3 quick examples. If we took an orange from 30 years ago today, it's estimated that you'd have to eat 6 to 8 oranges to equal the nutrition of 1 apple from 30 years ago. An apple, you have to eat about a dozen apples. But listen to this one from Cornell University. It's actually in one of my books. They estimate that the iron levels in spinach, you know, Popeye's food, God, that's got to be good for you, right? From Cornell University, 1953 to the present day, the iron levels have decreased in spinach by 4,300%. Let me repeat that, 4,300%, not 43, not 430, 4,300%. So do you understand what's happening to all of us? We're consuming this food that's calorically dense and nutritionally bankrupt. Do you understand now? Like, one of the things that will really get me mad, and there are a lot of things that get me mad, you can tell I'm a crazy person, right? But Don't go through this and then call me up and say, Peter, do I have to do this for the rest of my life? I go absolutely ballistic, nuts, crazy. Because where else are you going to get this level of nutrition? You're not. And John Anderson went all over the world. I mean, he went to the rainforest. He went to New Zealand. He went to Tibet. He went to India. He went to Bangladesh. He went to China to find foods that had no relationship to calories. It was all based on nutritional density. That's a term you all can use if you want. Nutritional density, because that's what you have. Okay. Now, let me come back to protein, and I'll probably get in trouble for this, but I've been in trouble before. Okay. Now, let me go back and share with you my story and how I met John Anderson. Some of you may be interested in that. Some of you are already ready to tune me out. It's okay. I'm a big boy. So 20 years ago, I walked in my doctor's, 21 years ago, walked in my doctor's office about this time of year for my yearly physical. Now, remember, I used to be a ski racer, tried for the Olympics. I was a world-class athlete at one point. And he comes in with my chart and says, Peter, if you don't do something radically different today, when you walk out of here, I give you about 18 months to live. I went, what? My cholesterol was 400. My triglycerides were 300, and my risk of a heart attack, 0 to 100, was at 85%. So what did I do? Diet, exercise, and Lipitor. Now, remember, when I heard the word exercise, this is no problem. So he had me scheduled 8 weeks later. I come back 8 weeks later. I lose 8 pounds in 8 weeks. We all know that would actually be really good on a diet, to be quite honest with you. But I was also working out 7 days a week and eating 1,200 calories a day, et cetera. But my cholesterol only came down 15 points. Now, what do? Well, ironically, in my old life, actually, one of my customers had played professional football for the Oakland Raiders. And he turned me on to the concept of detox. I said, hell, I'll eat road tarp and won't kill me. So I go on this, right? Now, remember, the version back then, and actually, some of you weren't there 21 years ago when we started. But for example, the aloe vera, it literally tastes like motor oil. I mean, the only way you could get it down was really to hold your nose and chug it. And I'm serious. But I go on it. I lost 8 pounds in 48 hours. I lost 12 pounds in 9 days. I lost 20 pounds in 18 days. Went from 42 to a 34-inch waist in 18 days. Ended up losing 40 pounds in 7 weeks and went back to my doctor and for follow-up, right? I did the blood work and then I came back a few days in. And this time he comes in and he literally takes my chart and throws it down. So, Peter, you trying to kill yourself? So what are you talking about? He says, how the hell much Lipitor are you taking? I said, Doc, I haven't touched this stuff in 2 months. He said, well, the lab made a mistake. I said, why? He said, why? Your cholesterol's gone from 400 to 120. Your triglycerides gone from 300 to 30. And your heart attack risk has dropped from 85 to 15. I said, you ain't retesting me. And then ironically, another doctor friend of mine in Denver that I hadn't seen for 8 weeks, to be honest. And we were just talking and I noticed she was being like really weird. She's gastroenterologist, by the way. And I said, what's wrong? She said, Peter, do you have cancer? I went, what? Because, I lost 40 pounds in 7 weeks. It was pretty, and I hadn't seen her, right? And she says, oh my gosh, listen, 20 of us doctors are getting together with the chemists that invented this and coming in Denver in 2 weeks, come to just tell your story, you get a free steak dinner. I said, okay, I'm there. So anyway, I told my story and John Anderson, who I called Mr. Anderson at that time, of course, I didn't know him. I hadn't drunk tequila with him. He says, I want to talk to you after dinner. And he pulled me aside and that's when he said, look, I know I've invented something's going to change the world and I need someone like you to tell the world about it. And that's how this whole thing started. I never set out to become a researcher. I never set out to be a pioneer. I never set out to be, famous. Now, again, I want to tell you, not to brag, but you need to understand, why did he tell me that when I didn't know what a calorie was? I'm not making it up. You think I knew any of what I'm talking about tonight? Maybe I don't even know what I'm talking about tonight, but I kind of think I do. But anyway, so what really happened was the doctor knew about my background. So for those of you who don't know me, I used to be an actor. I did a couple movies. I started off Broadway. I was trained classically in New York. I did over 500 TV commercials. He knew that about me. And so ultimately he told me, look, you don't have to know anything about this because nobody else does. He said, and I'll teach you. And that's how it started. But that charge of him asking me that, and I had the great pleasure of being with him for almost 20 years before he passed away, 2 years ago. And I just took it really seriously. And then what happened is, I would say myself, Michael knows me, I'm neurotically curious. If anything, I'm completely nuts. I've read over 500 books. I've done over 10,000 hours of research. I've flown over 2 million miles just on United, delivering 1,500 lectures all over the world. I never charged a person a penny. I paid my own airfare, my own hotel, my own car rentals, whatever it was, because I felt that this message was so important that it could change the world. First lecture I ever did was in Santa Monica, doctor's office. There were 2 people in the audience. I came out and said, I've come for one reason tonight, and said, what's that? And I said, I'm going to change the world. They laughed until I got done. Then they came up and said, oh my God, I wish my brother, my cousin, that was my first lecture ever with 2 people, And since that time, like I said, I've done over 1,500 lectures and have helped tens of thousands of, I saw this really great movie this weekend with Anthony Hopkins about this man in, actually he was from England, but he went to Prague and was able to save 691 children from the Holocaust. And I was with my wife and she turned to me and just said, you realize how many people you've impacted? And I never really thought about it that day, but I can tell you, I have people that I can't even tell you, but let's just say that shouldn't be here that are. That's all I'll tell you, okay? So Debbie or Jeff or Michael, oh, no, here's the most important part. I didn't tell you this, okay? This is the part I'll probably get in trouble. Now, I gave you the lesson about a protein being the shell, like a walnut shell, okay? All right, and I said the most important thing is the absorption of the amino acids, okay? So they developed a test. We didn't even know this until like 6, 7, 8 years ago, or 10, I guess it was about 10 years ago. In Europe, they developed a test. It's called net nitrogen utilization. You don't have to remember that. All it means is when we ingest a protein, they were able to determine through stool, blood, and urine analysis what percentage, 0 to 100, of the amino acids were being used by those 22,000 genes to make 22,000 proteins, okay? Now, this will make, if you're a vegan, don't get mad at me. I'm just a scientist. I'm just giving you the numbers. Vegan proteins, if it's a single protein, like let's say a pea protein, the absorption is only 10%. 90% is total toxic waste that the kidneys have to get rid of, okay? Now, in your case, you have a plant-based protein that has 2 or 3, John Anderson did that and got it up to about 25%. But most of the stuff commercially on the market is anywhere between 10 and 15% absorption. So what happened to the other 85%? That's the walnut shell that the kidneys have to get rid of. God forbid you ever had a friend that was on kidney dialysis because they don't want them to have protein. But yet you can't live without protein because that's the only way to get amino acids. Does that make sense to everyone? Now, animal proteins, whether it's steak, chicken, liver, fish, maximum absorption, 30%, meaning 70. So all these bodybuilders that are taking a gram of protein for every pound they weigh, all they're doing is they don't understand they're destroying their kidneys, okay? Because why are they doing that? Because the only way you can make muscle in your body is not lifting weights. It's with one of the 20 amino acids. If that's not present, I don't care how many weights you lift, you're not going to make muscle. It's called leucine, okay? So keep in mind, there's 20 amino acids that are part of the amino acid chains, right? Leucine's part of it. Now, I'm only telling you this as a scientist, okay? Because to be honest, for more than 15 years, I made the very shakes that you're making in cold water and drank them after 5 minutes. If you do that, your maximum absorption, which is higher than any other shake that's been tested, is about 15%. Now, why am I telling you this? Again, back to this book,